Hi there, Shelby. How you doing? All right. I'm looking at a just gorgeous campaign here. Really, really nice work. I just love it. Oh, and this is fantastic. Thank you so much for this really, really detailed and complete creative synopsis of your creative process. This is fantastic. I learned so much about what you're learning just by reading your writing. So I just love it when you guys include these detailed written rationales to accompany your assignment submission. So this is fantastic. All right, let's go ahead and jump over to the work. Magazine ad is good. It's solid. I think that if there's one thing that I would say about the magazine ad, excuse me, it's hard to tell right here, but it looks like this type is set in black. I would set it in the same purple that we have right up here, right? Because right now I think it's advancing a little bit in the composition. I think we want to get it on the kind of same visual plane as the other headline and subhead. Also, I would recommend that you take this whole section right here and move it down. Move it down. Just get it away from that subhead a little bit. Get a little bit of breathing room in between the intro and the information. So you have the headline, subhead, a little bit of breathing room. Maybe start it right about here where service members are. Just pull it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's right, second or third line right about there. And then go ahead and compile that. And the rest of the magazine ad looks fantastic. I think that if I recall correctly, that masked image from 2-1 is that flag in the background. So, and I think it works. I really do. I think it works very well. So, my only other comment now, I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I just want to reiterate because it's really, really important. When you are, as a designer, when you receive information in a client style guide, that is the Bible. You can't touch it. You can't change anything in that style guide. Whether it's a horrible design decision or not, you have to abide by that. That's something that has already been accepted by the powers that be at your client. That's what they want in their style guide. That's what we have to give them. I bet you're wondering why I say that. Well, I say that because of this treatment on the logo. It looks like you've kind of added this kind of ghosted out background here. Purple. And that's something that would be highly, highly irregular to slip something like that in. I think I shared this story with you, but I'm going to share it again. 3 years ago or so, I was looking through a publication, and I had done some work for a wedding officiant company, a pretty big company here in Cleveland. We did their branding identity package, right? So that's logo, typefaces, colors, etc. And we put it together a style guide for the company. A few years later, I was looking through a publication and I saw an ad for the company, and which is fine, right? I mean, I designed their branding. They went to another designer to create their ad. That's fine. That's all great, right? There's no problem there. But what I saw was that the designer had added a drop shadow to the logo. So, of course, what do you think I did? That logo is copyrighted. That information is part of a branding package. I contacted the client and I let them know. I said, hey, there's some misrepresentation going on in an ad. I just want you to be aware that the logo has been presented in a way that wasn't okay in the style guide. So they contacted the designer. The designer said, hey, there's no reason we can't add a drop shadow. So the client contacted me. I had to contact the designer with a cease and desist, with legal action that you can't just go and change. This is copyrighted material, and there's no changing that. So just so you know, it did end up in a cease and desist lawsuit. So that's some of the real world ramifications of changing things that are found in the style guide. Sorry, that took me a long time to describe that. So anyways, back to the task at hand. Okay, so great job on the magazine ad, right? So we transition to the web banner, and I think it's also just beautiful. I think the adaptation is remarkable. Technically, you've got the masked image from 2-1. We can see the flag in the background, right? The boots, just a good ad. All right, now, right over here, I think this logo is a little difficult to read. I think of the background on the sand and some of the busyness of the background image. I would recommend using the purple background logo right there, just so we have real, very, very clear and solid branding. You may even consider doing the same thing here, since that's on the same kind of sand. This logo has been distorted. We can clearly see. Compare this to the original logo. Did I already say this? Gosh, I'm doing so many critiques. I can't remember if I said this or not, but forgive me if I already did. But this has been distorted. You can see, if you compare this to the original logo from the style guide, you'll see this is longer and skinnier, meaning, and you can even see it here. This one's been placed correctly. This one's been stretched vertically. So what that tells me is that it was placed in the ad, it was resized, but you didn't hold your shift key down while you were dragging the bounding box to resize it, which ended up in a little distortion. So it didn't preserve the original aspect ratio. Now remember, when you do any kind of resizing at all, hold that shift key down. When you drag that bounding box, it will resize according to the original aspect ratio. It will maintain and constrain those original proportions, so we don't have this distortion. Okay, back to the banner ad. Again, I think the purple background would be a little bit more visible right up there. The only other thing is the animations themselves. Okay, so Veterans Value Pack, honoring those who serve. That's your subhead. That should not animate. Okay, if we take a look at the Part 1 Milestone 2 Guidelines and Rubrics, specifically the second sentence indicates that we're to enhance the call to action by using some basic Photoshop animation technique. Note it doesn't say that to animate the headline or the subhead. It just says animate the call to action. So we're going to leave that static. We're going to leave that static. Leave those as is. Indent them a little bit. Start them about where the E begins. They're too close to the edge of the page. All right. Then what you're going to do is, once you move those in, you've got 65% off entire state. That's the only thing that's going to animate, okay? But I do want to say something about that 65%. So headline, subhead remains static, and we're going to animate in that 65%, okay? Now, let me see if that comes in. You don't have to maintain that left margin right there. You can indent that a little bit just to set it up as well, maybe right over here, something right there, centered between the boots and the edge of the page, okay? But don't take so much time to animate that in, because we don't want anyone missing it. Now, don't keep in mind, people look at a web banner, they look at it, they look away. They don't hang out. So if it takes 8 seconds for the animation to come in, they're going to miss it, because people don't typically look at a banner ad for more than 3 seconds. So I recommend fading it in. Take about 1 second to fade it in, okay, and another second to fade it out. Wait maybe a second, then fade it in, fade it back out, and keep that on a continual loop forever. And then that I think that will definitely work. My final suggestion is to let the viewer know in the banner ad where this is located. You don't have to include the entire contact information, just the location will be fine. So maybe right over here, right there in alignment with the headline subhead, right down here, very small type, U.S. Virgin Islands, or St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, or located in beautiful St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, something like that, something to let the viewer know that this is Virgin Islands, Caribbean, and not maybe Florida or something that is a little bit less desirable, so to speak. I hope that makes sense. Okay, great job. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. But I'd like to see those changes for your final campaign here. So please let me know if I can clarify anything. Thank you very much.